Welcome back to the Deep Dive, where we sift through the facts to uncover the real story, extracting the most important nuggets of knowledge and insight tailored just for you. Today, we're embarking on a truly perplexing journey. A cold case that has baffled investigators and, frankly, anyone who hears about it for nearly 3 decades now.
It really has. This isn't just, a standard mystery. It's a story that challenges our understanding of human behavior under extreme duress and the nature of fear itself, I think.
Absolutely. It's like a thriller, but tragically real. So many twists, so many unanswered questions. It defies easy explanation.
It really does.
Our mission today is to unpack the confirmed facts surrounding the mysterious death of Robert Dennis Blair Adams. He was a Canadian man, and his journey across North America ended incredibly grimly in Knoxville, Tennessee, back in 1996.
A place he seemingly had no connection to.
Right. And we've pulled together a comprehensive dossier for you. We're drawing from official cold case files from the Knox County Sheriff's Office, news reports from the time, both Canadian and American sources, and various follow-up investigative reports published over the years.
Our goal is really to give you the most complete picture possible, piecing together these fragments of what we actually know, which, as we'll see, leaves a lot of gaps.
Exactly. So we'll be moving through a pretty detailed timeline of Blair Adams's final frantic days.
Yeah.
We'll delve into his background, who he was before everything went sideways.
And we'll look closely at the crime scene, the autopsy findings, which are quite brutal and strange in themselves.
Yeah. And then we'll review the investigative efforts. What leads did they follow? Why haven't they led anywhere concrete?
Right. And along the way, we'll highlight these just bewildering oddities that make this case so unique. I mean, sudden shifts in behavior, baffling decisions, things that just defy common sense, even for someone clearly in distress.
So as we prepare to dive into this labyrinthine case, what initially stands out to you? Because this isn't just about listening to facts. It's an invitation for you, our listener, to really think critically about this sequence of events.
I think for me, it's the sheer panic that seems to radiate from his actions in those final days.
Yeah.
It feels palpable, even just reading the reports decades later. And the total disconnect between that panic and any known external threat. That's the core puzzle, isn't it? Who was Blair Adams? A biographical snapshot.
Okay, let's start there then. To really unpack this mystery, we need to understand the man at the center, Blair Adams. He wasn't always this person seemingly in flight, right? He seemed to be building a life.
That's right. For a time, things looked relatively stable. So who was Robert Dennis Blair Adams? And what could have possibly driven him to such a desperate, fatal end?
Well, let's start with the basics. What do we know about his birth date, his origins?
He was born Robert Dennis Blair Adams on December 28, 1964, in Surrey, British Columbia, Canada. Now, at the time of his death, July 1996, most contemporaneous press reports list him as 31 years old.
Right.
But here's the first little, maybe insignificant, maybe not discrepancy. The official Knox County cold case file actually lists his age as 32.
Huh. Okay, a 1-year difference. Could be a typo.
Could be, absolutely, and that may seem trivial.
Mm.
But in cold cases like this, investigators scrutinize everything. Was it just a simple clerical error somewhere along the line? Or, given his later actions, could it possibly hint at something else? Maybe Blair himself trying to obscure details, even his age.
Interesting thought. It does set a tone, doesn't it, for the inconsistencies to come?
It really does. A subtle note of discord right from the start.
Okay, beyond the age discrepancy, what about his background, his life before 1996? Any red flags?
Well, his record wasn't spotless, but it wasn't like he's a career criminal either. He had a history of some minor convictions.
Okay, like what?
There's a past assault charge and also a drug possession conviction. Minor, as I said, not major felonies. But these specific records, combined with the large amount of cash he was carrying later, well, that's actually what got him flagged at the border the first time.
Ah, okay. That makes sense now. The first denial at the Victoria-Seattle ferry.
Exactly. U.S. immigration looked at his history, saw the cash, and thought, possible drug courier.
But was there ever any proof of that?
No. It's crucial to state that no evidence ever surfaced to support that specific accusation. It seems to have been purely suspicion based on the circumstances.
Okay.
But that suspicion itself, it immediately raises questions, doesn't it? Why so much cash? What were his financial activities? It suggests a life that maybe had some complications bubbling under the surface before things dramatically escalated.
Yeah, definitely hints at something more complex than just a regular guy taking a trip. Now, here's something that really stands out and seems incredibly significant. We learned Blair had achieved 2 years of sobriety. That's a huge deal.
A massive accomplishment, yeah.
Yeah.
It requires real commitment.
But then, just literally weeks before his death, he suddenly quits Alcoholics Anonymous. And he quits his job, a stable job as a construction foreman.
Abruptly. It wasn't like a planned transition.
Right. That's not just tweaking your life. That's pulling the rug out from under yourself. Your support system, your income, your routine, gone. What does that signify?
It's absolutely critical. You talk to his family, his coworkers. They were alarmed. And you can understand why. This wasn't a gradual drift. It was like flipping a switch.
Yeah.
And then you layer on top of that what his friends reported. He started telling them, apparently in very hushed, urgent tones, someone is trying to kill me.
Wow. Okay.
He complained about rumors being spread about him. Vague, unsettling stuff. But, and this is key, whenever they pressed him, asked who, why, what rumors, he refused to elaborate. Just clammed up.
Leaving them completely bewildered and, I imagine, terrified for him.
Exactly. It points to this deep-seated fear. Maybe intense paranoia. We don't know the origin, but whatever it was powerful enough to completely derail his life and send him into this irrational, desperate state.
So the picture emerging is, it's stark. Clear signs of escalating paranoia, severe distress, a man under immense psychological pressure.
Absolutely. And that context is vital, isn't it? To even begin to try and understand his actions in those final chaotic days, was it a mental health crisis spiraling out of control? Or was he genuinely fleeing a real threat that drove him to abandon everything?
That's the question that hangs over everything that follows. 2, the fateful journey, a minute-by-minute timeline. Okay, let's trace those final days now.
Yeah.
Because his movements, they're not just erratic. They seem to defy any kind of logical explanation. This isn't a trip. It feels like a flight. A frantic, desperate series of decisions.
It really does.
Yeah.
The sequence of events here is almost as baffling as the murder itself. It's this rapid descent into chaos.
Yeah.
And the pace is just incredible.
It kicks off, really, on Friday, July 5th, 1996, just a few days before his death.
Right. He starts by essentially liquidating his accessible assets. He cleans out his bank accounts, takes out a substantial amount of cash.
Okay.
Then he goes to his safe deposit box, takes out jewelry, and, significantly, about 5 ounces of gold bullion.
5 ounces of gold, plus cash, plus jewelry. That sounds like an escape kit. Someone gathering everything they can carry quickly.
Precisely. It's a very deliberate act, gathering liquid assets. But the purpose?
Yeah.
Still a mystery. It suggests this urgent, overriding need for funds he could access anywhere, instantly.
And then that same afternoon, Friday, July 5th.
He makes his first attempt to cross into the U.S., tries the Victoria-Seattle ferry.
And gets denied.
Denied. As we mentioned, it was a combination of his prior minor convictions and, crucially, the unusually large amount of cash and valuables he was carrying.
So border agents flagged him.
They did. Possible drug courier suspicion. Again, no proof, but enough to deny entry. And this denial seems to have been a critical turning point. Whatever his initial plan was, it just hit a brick wall.
Forcing him to improvise, it sounds like, or panic.
Increasingly panicked, it seems. Fast forward to Monday night, July 8th. He leaves his mother's home.
And how was his state then?
According to family reports, by this point, he was visibly paranoid, extremely anxious, suffering from severe sleeplessness. His psychological state was clearly deteriorating rapidly.
That distress seems to be fueling everything.
It really does. And it shows in his next actions. Very early Tuesday morning, July 9th, around 4 a.m., he's caught trying to cross the border again, this time on foot.
On foot? Why?
Presumably after another attempt by car failed, or maybe he thought it was less conspicuous, we don't know. But the Canadian officers who apprehended him noted something else, fresh scratches on his body.
Scratches? From what, did he say?
He never explained their origin. And adding to the weirdness, he's linked to an abandoned car report, a blue Chevette found near that border crossing point. Well, he denied involvement in abandoning it. And lacking direct evidence connecting him right then, they had to release him. But that abandoned Chevette, it's the first instance we see of him potentially shedding vehicles, trying to disappear, maybe.
Oh, just making really chaotic choices. It gets stranger, though, right? Because later that morning, Tuesday the 9th.
Get this. He somehow gets that same blue Chevette, the one found abandoned near the border, and drives it to Vancouver International Airport.
Wait, so he denied abandoning it, but then he's driving it.
Exactly. Or maybe it wasn't his initially and he acquired it somehow. It's unclear. But the point is, he drives that car to the airport and then just leaves it there, abandons it.
Okay, so that is the second car abandoned, or at least left behind, strangely. First, near the border, now at the airport.
And what does he do next? He goes to the rental counter and rents a third car. A Nissan Altima.
This is getting expensive. And really erratic. Chevette ditched. Now renting an Altima. What's the plan?
It suggests rapidly changing plans, maybe increasing panic, or a really concerted effort to evade someone or something. He's literally shedding vehicles like they're contaminated.
Okay, so now he's in the rented Nissan Altima, Tuesday, July 9th.
By noon, he successfully crosses the border into the U.S. in the Altima. No issues this time, apparently. He drives down to Seattle-Tacoma Airport, SeaTac.
Okay, he's in the U.S., he's got a rental car. What next? Maybe drive somewhere.
Nope. He goes into the airport terminal
Hmm?
and makes another truly perplexing decision. He buys an airline ticket.
To where? Back to Canada, somewhere else.
He buys a round-trip ticket to Frankfurt, Germany.
Frankfurt.
Why Frankfurt?
He had actually worked there before, so maybe it represented safety, familiarity, a place to escape to.
Okay, that almost makes a kind of sense. Returning to somewhere known.
But then, almost immediately after buying the round-trip ticket to Frankfurt, he exchanges it.
Exchanges it. For what?
For a one-way ticket to Washington, D.C.
One way. To D.C., that's completely different. And here's the kicker, right? The cost difference. Exactly. The round-trip flight to Frankfurt was actually cheaper than the one-way flight to D.C. He paid more money to change his destination entirely and make it a one-way trip.
The financial logic is just gone. Paying more for less travel to a seemingly random destination, it screams urgency or irrationality, or both.
It feels like a flight, doesn't it? Where the destination almost doesn't matter as much as just getting away or getting to that specific next point. Cost be damned.
It absolutely defies rational decision-making. A mind under siege.
The pattern just keeps accelerating. Wednesday, July 10th. 6:45 a.m., he lands at Dulles International Airport outside Washington, D.C.
Okay, he made it to the East Coast. Now what?
He immediately goes to the rental car counter again and rents another car, a Toyota Camry.
Wait, the fourth car? Chevette Altima left in Seattle, now a Camry in D.C.
Fourth vehicle in just a few days. He flew across an entire continent, only to rent another car. It's incredibly expensive, logistically complex. It suggests this almost manic need for fresh transport, or a desperate attempt to cover his tracks.
And he starts driving south. Right, not staying in D.C.
Right. And his urgency is noticeable. Later that morning, he's involved in a minor fender bender, just a small accident on US 250 near Troy, Virginia.
Anyone hurt?
No, thankfully not. But the other driver, their description of Adams is crucial. They said he seemed nice but in a hurry.
Nice, but in a hurry. Even in a minor accident, a stranger picks up on his intense urgency.
It's palpable, isn't it? He's not just driving. He's moving with this intense, almost frantic purpose, like he's being chased or racing against some invisible clock.
Okay, so he keeps driving south. Where does he end up?
By Wednesday afternoon, July 10th, he arrives in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Knoxville,
Yeah.
which is what, about 500 miles southwest of D.C.?
Roughly, yeah. And here's the thing. Blair Adams had absolutely no known contacts there. No family, no friends, no business associates. Nothing we know of connects him to Knoxville.
But why Knoxville? It makes no sense based on his supposed D.C. destination or the Frankfurt idea. It's completely off the path.
Completely. His first verified sighting in Knoxville is around 5:30 p.m. at a BP gas station on Strawberry Plains Pike. A seemingly random location for this bizarre trajectory to pause.
And this is where we get that very strange encounter with the tow truck driver.
Yes, between 5:30 and 6:30 p.m., a tow truck driver named Gerald Sapp finds Adams at the BP station. Adams is trying to start the rented Toyota Camry, but he can't.
Why not? What's wrong with the car?
Nothing, apparently. The issue was Adams himself. Sapp observed him trying to use the Nissan key, the key from the car he left in Seattle, on the Toyota he was currently driving.
Wait, he was using the wrong key, the key from the previous rental.
Yes, and according to Sapp, Blair actually had the correct Toyota key in his pockets. Sapp could see it or knew he must have it, but Blair refused to search for it, stubbornly kept trying the wrong key.
That is deeply strange. He drove the car there. He must have the key.
Exactly. And Sapp famously said about Adams's behavior, "I thought he was nuts."
I mean, you can understand why. It's completely irrational.
It paints this vivid picture of profound mental distress, right? He has the solution in his pocket, but can't or won't access it. And remember, toxicology later confirmed, no drugs, no alcohol.
So this isn't intoxication. This is something else. Extreme stress. Paranoia. A dissociative state where simple logic just breaks down.
It points strongly towards that, yes.
Yeah.
A mind in utter turmoil, unable to perform basic tasks.
Okay, so the car needs towing, presumably. What happens next?
He gets a tow, yes. And then between roughly 6:50 and 7:30 p.m., He ends up at a Fairfield Inn, very close to that BP station.
Does he check in? Try to get some rest.
This is where it gets even weirder. CCTV footage from the hotel lobby captures him pacing back and forth, not just once or twice, 5 times.
Pacing the lobby 5 times.
Okay.
Agitated.
Clearly. He eventually goes to the desk, pays $100 cash for a room, but then, another bizarre act. He refuses the change. Just leaves it.
Refuses change. Why?
No idea. But even stranger, he pays for the room and then never actually enters it. Never goes up, never uses it.
He just paid cash, refused change, and left. After pacing 5 times.
Exactly. The footage shows him leaving the lobby area shortly after paying. It's incredibly odd behavior. Was he waiting for someone? Did he suddenly feel unsafe? Did he fear being cornered in a room? We just don't know.
It's like every action is steeped in fear or paranoia.
It truly seems that way. And after he leaves the Fairfield Inn lobby around 7:30 p.m., we enter what investigators call the 9-hour black hole.
9 hours, a huge gap in the timeline. What happens between roughly 7:30 p.m. Wednesday night and the next morning?
We have almost nothing concrete. There's one potential clue, but it's unconfirmed. Around 3:30 a.m. on Thursday, July 11th, a security guard working nearby reported hearing a single scream.
A scream? From where? Linked to Adams.
The location was in the general vicinity near the construction site where Adams was later found. But it's unconfirmed, unverified. It could be related, potentially narrowing the window of the attack. But it's just a reported sound in the night.
Still, it's chilling given what happens next.
Very chilling. Because just a few hours later, at 7:13 a.m. that Thursday morning, a construction crew arrives at an under-construction country inn and suites.
Right near the Fairfield Inn.
Yes, very close.
Yeah.
At 7471 Crosswood Boulevard. And there, they make the grim discovery.
Blair Adams's body.
Blair Adams's body. His frantic, baffling journey across the continent had come to a violent, tragic end.
And the vehicles. What happened to the Camry he rented in D.C. and the Altima he left in Seattle?
The Toyota key, the correct one, was actually recovered near his body at the crime scene, along with maps and travel receipts from his journey.
So he did have the key nearby when he was talking to the tow truck driver.
It seems so. Just couldn't or wouldn't use it. As for the Nissan Altima, the car he rented in Vancouver and drove to Seattle, it was eventually located, days later, abandoned in the SeaTac long-term parking lot.
Just left there. Another discarded vehicle.
Exactly. Echoing his entire erratic journey. A literal trail of abandoned cars mirroring a life seemingly abandoned or perhaps violently taken from him. 3. The crime scene and autopsy findings.
Okay, let's talk about the crime scene itself, where he was found at that construction site, and the autopsy results. Because they paint a picture that's both brutal and profoundly confusing, right? It seems to contradict the most common motives for murder.
Absolutely. The scene itself was highly unusual. He was found, as we said, at an under-construction hotel. His shirt was open, his pants, shoes, and socks had been removed.
Removed and scattered nearby.
Yes, scattered nearby, which could indicate a struggle, maybe a sexual assault component, or perhaps even deliberate staging of the scene by the killer. It's immediately ambiguous.
But the most striking thing, the detail that just jumps out immediately, is the money, isn't it?
Without a doubt. The sheer amount of cash and valuables found with his body, completely untouched. It fundamentally challenges our expectations in a homicide case.
How much are we talking? You mentioned cash scattered around him.
Yes. Cash totaling approximately $4,000 was found scattered near and on his body. And it wasn't just one currency. It was a mix of U.S. dollars, Canadian dollars, and even German Deutschmarks.
Deutschmarks. From the Frankfurt connection, maybe?
Possibly.
Yeah.
Left over from his previous time working there, or maybe related to the ticket he bought and exchanged. But the point is, $4,000 in cash lying there.
And that's not all, right? The gold and jewelry.
Correct. His fanny pack was found right there on the asphalt next to his body.
Yeah.
Inside, approximately 5 troy ounces of gold bars, various gold and platinum coins, several pieces of jewelry, sunglasses, all untouched.
Untouched. Gold bars, jewelry, thousands in cash, just left there.
Exactly. This immediately, unequivocally, rules out robbery as a primary motive, or even a secondary one, really. Whoever killed him wasn't interested in the money or the valuables.
Which forces investigators down completely different paths, doesn't it? Crime of passion, pre-existing conflict, something targeted, or just bizarre.
All of the above become possibilities. It makes the motive incredibly opaque. The lack of theft is, paradoxically, one of the biggest clues, but also one of the most frustrating because it eliminates the simplest explanation.
Okay, what about his injuries? What did the autopsy reveal about how he died?
The autopsy painted a picture of a violent struggle. He had numerous cuts and abrasions all over his body, consistent with defensive wounds. He fought back.
He fought his attacker. Okay.
He suffered a very severe blow to the forehead. The coroner suggested it was likely from a blunt object, something heavy like a crowbar or a club. Significant blunt force trauma.
Suggests intent to cause serious harm or incapacitate him quickly.
Definitely. And beyond the head injury, he also sustained a violent strike to his abdomen. This blow was forceful enough to rupture his stomach.
Ruptured his stomach. That sounds incredibly painful and serious.
Extremely. This internal injury led to sepsis, a massive internal infection, which was officially determined as the cause of death. So it wasn't necessarily the head blow that killed him directly, but the complications from the abdominal injury. A brutal, violent assault.
Just horrific. Now, you mentioned the state of his clothing possibly indicating a sexual assault component. Did the autopsy shed light on that?
This is a sensitive and somewhat ambiguous point. Some reports do mention injuries consistent with sexual assault were observed during the autopsy.
Consistent with.
However, and this is a critical distinction, no definitive forensic evidence, specifically no semen or DNA evidence, was found at the scene or on his body to confirm that a sexual assault actually occurred.
So it's a possibility raised by some injuries, but not proven forensically.
Precisely. It adds another layer of disturbing possibility and confusion to the crime scene, alongside the untouched valuables, but it remains an unconfirmed element in the official record.
Given the violence and the struggle, you'd expect maybe more forensic evidence left by the assailant. Was the scene clean?
Surprisingly sparse, yes. Considering the likely struggle and the brutality. It suggests either the location itself wasn't conducive to leaving trace evidence, or the assailant was careful or perhaps lucky.
But there was one piece of physical evidence from the attacker, right?
Yes. The only piece of physical evidence directly linked to an assailant was found literally in Blair Adams' hand. A single, long strand of hair was clenched tightly in his fist.
Wow. He grabbed it during the struggle. That must be crucial.
You would think so. A DNA profile was successfully created from that hair strand, a potential direct link to the killer.
So, did they get a match?
Frustratingly, no.
Yeah.
As of mid-2025, nearly 3 decades later, there has been no match in CODIS, the National DNA Database, or any other database they've checked.
So that single, crucial piece of evidence, it's still a dead end.
For now, yes. It's a profile waiting for a match, a tangible clue that currently leads nowhere. It's incredibly frustrating for investigators.
I can only imagine. Okay, one last crucial point from the autopsy. Toxicology. Given his incredibly bizarre behavior leading up to this, was he on anything?
That's what makes his behavior even more baffling. The toxicology reports came back completely clean.
No drugs, no alcohol.
None detected in his system, 0.
Wow, so that confirms it. The paranoia, the frantic travel, the key incident, the pacing, none of it was due to intoxication.
Exactly. It reinforces the idea that his state was caused by something else entirely extreme: psychological distress, severe paranoia, a possible underlying mental health crisis, or perhaps a genuine, terrifying external threat that was very real to him.
Which brings us right back to the central mystery. What was driving him? 4, investigative leads and actions. A dead end. So you have this incredibly bizarre case. A victim behaving erratically, traveling cross-country for no clear reason, murdered brutally but not robbed, leaving behind a single unmatched hair. Where do investigators even start? What leads did they pursue?
They face a huge challenge right from the start. A victim with no ties to the area, a crime scene with mixed signals. They had to cast a really wide net. But as you said, many of those leads just seem to underscore the mystery rather than solve it.
There was that composite sketch early on, right? Someone seen talking to him.
Yes. That was a potentially significant early lead. A composite sketch was created of an unidentified white male. This man was reportedly seen talking with Blair Adams outside a Cracker Barrel restaurant near where his body was found, shortly before his death.
Okay, a witness places him with someone specific. That sounds promising.
It did. But here's a major issue reflecting the limits of technology at the time. That composite sketch, drawn in 1996, was only digitized and entered into modern facial recognition databases in 2023.
27 years later.
Yeah, decades after the fact. And perhaps unsurprisingly, given the time lag and the known limitations of matching old sketches with current photo databases, it hasn't led to any identification.
Wow. A huge potential lead effectively lost to time and technological limitations.
It represents a significant missed opportunity, unfortunately. What might have happened if that tech existed back then? We'll never know.
What about those initial suspicions from the border crossing? The drug courier idea, or maybe involvement with stolen cars, given the abandoned Chevette?
Investigators looked into those angles thoroughly. They found absolutely no evidence to support the drug smuggling theory. Nothing in his background, finances, or the circumstances pointed that way beyond the initial border flag.
Okay, so that was ruled out.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And the abandoned car near the border. While linked to him being in the area, they couldn't conclusively tie it to him in a way that suggested he was involved in car theft or using it for other criminal activity. It just seemed part of his chaotic journey. So those theories didn't pan out.
Which shifts the focus away from organized crime or drug motives, presumably.
It does. It points towards something potentially more personal or more random or connected to his mental state.
What about his own words? The "someone is trying to kill me" claim he made to friends. The contract head idea, did Canadian police find anything?
That was obviously a critical line of inquiry. The RCMP, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, conducted extensive investigations back in Canada based on those claims by his friends.
Did they find any threats, any contracts, any disgruntled associates?
Nothing. Despite Blair's palpable fear, the RCMP found no verifiable threats against him, no evidence of a contract hit, no tangible reason why someone would be targeting him for murder that they could uncover.
So his own desperate feeling of being targeted, it remains officially unverified.
Completely unverified by law enforcement channels,
Mm-hmm.
which leaves that massive, troubling question. Was it a profound delusion driving his behavior? Or was there a very real, very well-hidden threat that investigators simply couldn't find evidence of?
A chilling ambiguity right there. Okay, what about the possibility of, say, a hookup gone wrong? The sex work theory, given the state of his clothes, the location.
That was considered yes, given the partial nudity and the location. But again, it remains entirely unsupported by concrete evidence.
Why unsupported?
Two main reasons. First, the untouched cash and gold. That really argues against the typical scenario involving sex work, where robbery might be a motive. Second, and critically, the lack of any DNA evidence, no semen, nothing to confirm a sexual assault took place.
Right. Without that confirmation, it's just speculation based on the scene.
Exactly. So while it was a theory they had to consider, it's viewed as less likely to be the primary motive given the lack of corroborating evidence.
Okay, let's go back to the hair found in his hand. You said it was retested in 2010.
That's right. Over a decade after the murder, hoping advances in DNA technology might yield more information or a match.
And did they get more detail? A better profile?
They did successfully generate a profile using those more advanced techniques.
Huh?
However, details about that profile, like the sex or race of the person it came from, haven't been publicly released by investigators.
Interesting. They're holding that information back.
It seems so. Perhaps for investigative reasons. But the bottom line is, even with the updated profile from 2010, it remains unmatched in CODIS and other databases as of today. That single piece of physical evidence, the most direct link, still hasn't yielded a suspect.
Still a dead end. It's almost unbelievable. And maybe the most baffling part of the investigation, or lack thereof, is the tips. Or the lack of tips. For a case this weird, this public, surely someone knows something.
You would absolutely think so.
Yeah.
But this is perhaps one of the most remarkable and frustrating aspects. Knox County investigators have stated quite clearly and repeatedly over the years that they have never received a single credible tip regarding Blair Adams' murder.
Never. In almost 30 years.
Never a credible one. From 1996 all the way up to mid-2025. Think about that. Decades of public knowledge about this bizarre case. The details have been out there. And yet, complete silence from anyone with useful information.
That level of silence is almost as mysterious as the crime itself.
It truly is. What does it suggest? An incredibly isolated incident with absolutely no witnesses. A killer who was extremely careful, left no trace, and never spoke about it to anyone. Or a conspiracy of silence within a small group. Or just sheer bad luck that no one connected the dots. It's profoundly baffling, via oddities and discrepancies. The unexplainable.
Okay, let's really circle back and focus on these oddities.
Yeah.
Because this case, more than almost any other we've covered, is just brimming with details that simply don't add up. Moments that defy logic. And it's these things that keep people fascinated, right?
Absolutely. They're not just minor footnotes. They're fundamental questions about Blair's state of mind, about the circumstances, about potential third parties. They are the core of why this remains unsolved. Each one is a puzzle piece that just refuses to fit.
Let's start with that age discrepancy again. Knox County file says 32, records say 31. You mentioned it could be a clue.
Well, it could be nothing. A simple typo, like we said. But in the context of everything else, the paranoia, the changing vehicles, the potential desire to obscure his identity, you just have to wonder, was he deliberately misrepresenting his age for some reason? Did it get recorded incorrectly early on and just stuck? It's small, but it contributes to the overall sense of instability and confusion surrounding him.
It feeds the narrative of things being off. Okay, what about the airline ticket? Paying more for a one-way to D.C. when a round trip to Frankfurt was cheaper.
That one is just financially baffling. It completely short-circuits rational economic thinking. It screams either profound irrationality, his mind just wasn't processing cost versus benefit anymore, or an absolutely desperate overriding need to get specifically to D.C.
Like D.C. was a necessary step, or safer, or a meeting point.
Perhaps. Whatever the reason, the financial logic is totally absent. It strongly implies his actions were being driven by something far more powerful than money: fear, panic, a specific, albeit illogical, plan formed under duress. It's a tangible marker of just how compromised his thinking might have been.
Then there's the wrong key incident. With Gerald Sepp, the tow truck driver, he has the right key, presumably in his pocket, but tries the old key and won't search for the correct one.
Sepp's quote, "I thought he was nuts," just says it all, doesn't it? It's a heartbreaking firsthand account of Blair's state. This behavior aligns so strongly with severe paranoia, or a dissociative episode, or some kind of acute psychotic break where simple problem-solving is impossible.
Especially since we know he wasn't drunk or high.
Exactly. The clean toxicology makes this incident even more significant. It points directly away from substance use and strongly towards a profound mental disturbance or overwhelming psychological distress. He was physically there, but mentally somewhere else entirely, it seems, unable to engage with reality in a normal way.
Which leads right into the biggest oddity for a murder scene: the untouched valuables. The cash, the gold, the jewelry, just left there.
This is the detail that fundamentally alters the case. It rules out robbery, the most common motive. So what's left?
Well, the potential sexual assault angle, though unconfirmed.
Right. That remains a possibility, perhaps primary, perhaps secondary. Or another chilling thought. Was the scene deliberately staged? Was leaving the valuables meant to send a message or to confuse investigators, point them away from the real motive?
Or maybe it was just the killer panicked, didn't have time.
Also possible. Or perhaps the valuables were simply Blair's own Tana kit, gathered for his flight, and the assailant simply wasn't interested or didn't notice them in the heat of the moment. But whatever the reason, the lack of theft is a massive deviation from a typical homicide. It forces us to consider much more complex, personal, or even symbolic motivations.
Then there's that huge time gap, the 9-hour black hole. From leaving the Fairfield Inn lobby around 7:30 p.m. Wednesday to that possible scream around 3:30 a.m. Thursday. 9 hours unaccounted for.
This is perhaps the most critical void in the entire timeline. What happened in those 9 hours? Where did he go after leaving the hotel lobby? Who, if anyone, did he meet? Was he wandering? Hiding? Did he encounter his killer early on or only towards the end of that period?
And no CCTV back then to fill in the gaps.
Precisely. No cameras covering that area extensively in 1996, so we are completely blind for that crucial period leading up to his death. The answer to who killed him almost certainly lies within those 9 hours, but we have no window into them. It's a gaping hole at the heart of the investigation.
And finally, just to reiterate, that pattern of abandoned cars, the Chevette near the border, the Altima at SeaTac, the Camry found at the scene.
It's such a distinct pattern, isn't it? Discarding transportation. It hints at constantly shifting plans, escalating panic, a desperate attempt to avoid being followed or traced. Each abandoned car feels like shedding a layer of identity or a failed plan. It visually represents the chaotic, frantic nature of his final journey. 6. Physical evidence inventory. A sparse record.
So let's just quickly recap the actual physical evidence found at the scene or directly connected to it based on the police logs. Sometimes laying out the concrete items helps clarify things or highlights what's missing.
Definitely. It shows what investigators had to work with forensically. And as we've discussed, how limited some of it was, despite the apparent violence.
Okay, first, the Toyota key.
Right. The key to the Camry he rented in D.C., found on the ground near his body, confirms it was his final car and adds to the puzzle of why he was trying the Nissan key earlier.
Then a black duffel bag.
Found beside his body, yes. Inside were maps and various travel receipts, potentially useful for tracking his exact route, maybe identifying stops along the way.
Yeah.
But so far, nothing in those receipts seems to have cracked the case or identified anyone else involved. More historical markers than active clues now.
But the fanny pack.
Found right there on the asphalt. This contained the real valuables, the gold bars, approximately 5 ounces, the platinum and gold coins, the jewelry, sunglasses, all untouched. Its presence and the state of its contents is a huge piece of the puzzle regarding motive.
Scattered money.
About $4,000 in mixed currencies, U.S., Canadian, German, scattered around him. Again, powerfully argues against robbery. Why scatter it? Why leave it? Another baffling detail.
And finally, the single most important piece of forensic evidence.
That single long strand of hair, clenched tightly in his fist, likely pulled from his assailant during the struggle. The only direct physical link found so far.
But despite DNA profiling, even retesting in 2010,
still no match in CODIS or other databases. It's profiled, it exists, but it hasn't hit on anyone known to law enforcement. It's the best hope for identification, but it remains silent. A whisper from the crime scene that hasn't yet revealed its source. 7. Unanswered questions and the ongoing appeal.
So after laying it all out, the timeline, the victim's state, the crime scene, the investigation, we're still left staring into this abyss of confusion, aren't we? This case remains stubbornly, frustratingly unsolved nearly 3 decades on.
It really does. And it forces us back to that fundamental question. What was Blair Adams so profoundly afraid of? Was it real? Was someone genuinely after him? A threat that tracked him across a continent and finally caught him in Knoxville?
Or was it internal? A devastating mental health crisis, a paranoid delusion that made him erratic, vulnerable, and ultimately led him into a fatal encounter, perhaps random, perhaps opportunistic, that he couldn't escape because his judgment was so impaired.
His own words, "Someone is trying to kill me," haunt the case, combined with the bizarre journey and the violent non-robbery murder. It paints a picture far more complex, far more terrifying than a simple random attack. But we just don't know which picture is true.
And why Knoxville? We keep coming back to that. Why there? Of all the places between D.C. and anywhere else, was it random? Did he follow someone there? Did someone lead him there?
We have no answers. And what happened in those 9 dark hours between the Fairfield Inn and the construction site? Who did he meet? What transpired? The composite sketch lead went cold. The DNA from the hair remains unmatched. The holes in the narrative are just enormous.
And that silence. The fact that investigators state they've never received a credible tip, it's almost unbelievable for a case with these kinds of details.
It's truly remarkable and deeply puzzling. Does it mean it was an incredibly isolated event, witnessed by no one? Was the killer incredibly meticulous and solitary? Or is someone out there holding on to a piece of information, staying silent all these years? That lack of public input is a mystery wrapped inside the main enigma. Outro.
Our deep dive into the murder of Blair Adams leaves us, and likely you, with far more questions than answers. It's a deeply tragic story. A man seemingly consumed by fear, undertaking a desperate flight across North America, only to meet a brutal end in a place far from home.
And the fact his valuables were left untouched just amplifies the mystery, layer upon layer. The case of Blair Adams is a chilling reminder that sometimes, despite abundant documented facts, the truth can remain stubbornly hidden. His journey is an enduring cold case enigma.
It truly is. And because this case is still open, still actively investigated, we want to make an appeal. If you, our listener, have any information, literally anything, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant it might feel about the murder of Robert Dennis Blair Adams in Knoxville, Tennessee in July 1996, please consider reaching out.
Investigators with the Knox County Cold Case Unit are actively seeking new leads. That one tiny detail you might remember or something someone once told you could be the missing piece they need.
You can contact them directly. The number is +1 865 215 3520.
Or you can send an email to coldcase@knoxsheriff.org. That's coldcase@knoxsheriff.org. Any piece of information could be the key to finally bringing clarity and perhaps some measure of justice to this enduring mystery.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep digging for the truth.